Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I am here to talk about all of the books I read in February, so let's talk about it. The first book I finished in February was Hellboy Volume 8, Darkness Calls. I am reading through a particular arc in this Hellboy comic run in preparation for the new movie that's coming out to do reviews on my other channel. I will link that. So I'm actually going to have a full reading blog and book review that's spoiler free on this arc, but I still want to talk about it a little bit here. Volume 8, I think plopping into the middle of a series threw me off a little bit. I'm also not used to this comic style. So this volume took a little bit of getting into, and it didn't completely pull me into the story like I was hoping for, but at the same time I still really enjoyed getting to know more of Hellboy's backstory and begin to get into that story. For the next 3 to 4 books, I read these during Creature-a-thon. If you are not familiar, I am a co-host of Bookish Bash, and we host reading events every month here, well, not here, on all platforms, but I always like to announce them and recap them with you guys. And during February, we did a readathon called Creature-a-thon, and the point was to read books about creatures. I will link the reading blog if you are interested in it. There's lots of fun cat content and cuteness. But the first book I read for that was The Two Towers, and I'm trying to remember what challenge I had this for. I don't remember. I read this on audiobook. This is a copy of all 3 books in the trilogy, but I ended up doing it on audiobook because I have a really hard time getting through these books. My overall thoughts is that I didn't love it. I don't love the writing style, and honestly, I think the movies are better. But still interesting to read. As someone who has loved the movies for years, it's nice to get familiar with the source content. Next up, I read Stars Above, which is a collection of short stories in the Lunar Chronicles universe. I really enjoyed this. I have not been in the Lunar Chronicles world in a bit since I went through the series the first time a couple of years ago, and right before this in January I read Fairest, which is, you know, a standalone story about the villain, but this is a collection of stories, and I really loved getting to revisit these characters and get a little bit more backstory or epilogue to their stories depending on which, you know, short story it was. Do recommend if you like the Lunar Chronicles and enjoyed that world, although I will say I don't think you can read this one. I think this one takes place... No, I think you need to read this after the series, because the last story happens after the 4th book, if I remember correctly. So definitely finish the Lunar Chronicles all the way until you read this one if you're interested. I do recommend the Lunar Chronicles, obviously, if you haven't read it. And then since I was doing my Hellboy read-through, I decided to fit one in during Creature-a-thon, because Hellboy counts as a creature. And I read Volume 9, which is The Wild Hunt. I really, really loved this volume. I was iffy on Volume 8, but this one, so good. Do recommend if you're interested in Hellboy and his backstory. There's 12 volumes total in this run, but they're not all like one long story arc. There are certain volumes here and there that are like short little stories or a collection of stories that don't necessarily fit into the full story arc or the grander story arc. So just so you know. But this one we got to learn a lot more about Hellboy's parentage and just lineage and his purpose in the world, which is kind of the whole point of this arc. And so that was really cool, and I think by the time I got to this volume I was a lot more used to the comic style and like the art and the way that the panels flow, so I think I was able to get into this one a little bit more than I was with 8. And then a book that I started during Creature-a-thon but actually didn't end up finishing in February, so you're going to see me mention it this month and next month, but I still wanted to mention it along with the ones I started reading for Creature-a-thon, and that was Song of the Dead. This is the second and last book in the Reign of the Fallen series. Reign of the Fallen is one of my favorite fantasies. I really, really loved the book last year. I'm not going to tell you my thoughts on this one because I didn't technically finish it in February, but I wanted to mention that I did start reading it. I think I got about halfway through it during Creature-a-thon, and I was really enjoying it, and I do like the creature that gets introduced into this book, which is a dragon, so that was quite fun. And then the last book I ended up reading in February was Pretty Little Liars #3, which is perfect. I started reading Pretty Little Liars during the last round of Buzzwordathon, which I think was round 2, and the word was lie, liar, lying. So Pretty Little Liars fit. I decided after this 3rd one that I'm not continuing with the series anymore. I think the first 2 were like fun little popcorn, listen to them on audiobook while I work and do data stuff. Nice kind of thing, but I think with the 3rd one, things are just like going a little too far off the rails for my liking, and the writing is not good. There are points when like a character is referred to as like visibly gasping or like doing a certain action, and then like 2 minutes later they're doing the same exact action, and I just found it like not very imaginative and not very well written, to the point where it was like making me cringe as I read it. I'm sure the first 2 books had that too, but I didn't really start to notice it until the 3rd one, unless it is just a 3rd book thing. I don't know. But there's like 16 books in the series, and I just do not feel committed to the characters enough to continue, and I just, yeah. It has a lot of problematicness with the series, which I think people have mentioned a lot, so I don't really feel the need to go into extreme detail, but it's fine if you just want like a fluffy popcorn read, but it wasn't my favorite. And that actually wraps up all of the books I read in February. I feel like I went through those super fast. I completed 5 books total. 2 of those were comic books, so it's kind of a lighter reading month, but I'm still ahead of my Goodreads goal for the year. I read quite a few books in January and whatnot, so I'm still on track and pretty happy with my reading progress. I know I don't read as much as a lot of other booktubers here on BookTube, but I hope that you still enjoyed. Let me know down below if you have read any of these books and enjoyed them, or whatever else you thought about them. I would love to chat with you about it. Also, let me know what you read this month, past month. I'm interested, would love to chat. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram, although I am most active on Twitter if you're interested in chatting more. And like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you want to see more bookish videos from me. I do occasionally throw in beauty videos, but it's been a hot minute since I've done that. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!